What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. This is another Under Armour review. This time it is the brand new Magnetico Elite 3.0, which follows up the Clone Magnetico Pro 2.0, and there are some interesting changes which I'm very excited to talk about today. So let's hop straight into the unboxing of this video with the black classic Under Armour box. Now, this boot is headed by Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is an Under Armour player, has been for quite a while now. As you can see, these are the Under Armour Clone Magnetico Elite 3.0 FG. This is what looks like a pink picture of these boots. These are not pink. In fact, they are more of a red and green. So I don't know what that photo is, but these are a 9 US, a UK 8, a Euro 42.5, and a 27 centimeters there, and they retail for $250 from the Under Armour, wherever you can find them. So Under Armour logo there, some recycled box stuff print on the back, Under Armour on either side as well, logoing on either side of the box. Very, very classic, and let's get them unboxed. Okay, I can see the red already. Got some Under Armour branded paper here. Boom. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so when I was looking at getting, these are insane. These are just Christmas in a boot. These are wild, and they're also quite a bit different than last generation, which you guys know I thought parts of that boot were actually really nice, while others really were not so good. And we're going to talk about some of the things that they've updated with this boot as well. I'm going to take these laces off. One of the cool things that you get with the Under Armour boots is a second pair of laces. So they come in that green and blue or green and purple accent color, which is super, super nice. But these are a very, very bright kind of reddish orange colorway, which is super lovely. I think they look excellent. Well, actually, I don't know if they look excellent, but they are very bright, and that to me is something that I think will be great for testing, so it'll really show kind of what the wear and tear on the colors and stuff is. So they do look very similar to the previous generation 2.0, but there are some very key differences in the way that this boot is constructed. Obviously, the sole plate is completely new, so this is something that I was not a huge fan of on the 2.0, and they've completely updated it, which is awesome, aside from obviously having the majority conical studs, which is great. But let's go over some of the tech features of this football boot, because I do think it is a really interesting piece of technology. And in the 1 month review as well, we talked about some of the reasons why this boot wasn't going to be part of my normal rotation. And in fact, that white pair I was able to sell to a viewer of this channel. So if you're watching, I hope you are enjoying those 2.0s. That is just a boot that, for whatever reason, I was not a huge fan of. Obviously, pieces of it, including this upper, are fantastic, which is where I want to start today. So this is a fully, this material is called auxetic material, so it molds around the foot, basically giving you a really, really nice glove-like fit. It really does feel like a one-to-one sensation. It feels like the boots are pre-broken in for your feet, and because this material comes all the way from the lateral side of the midfoot all the way around the forefoot and into the instep on the medial side here, and basically you're just getting a synthetic on the back in that heel area for a little structure. This provides one of the most insane out-of-the-box experiences, because you look at this boot and you might think, well, depending on the shape, it might or might not fit straight out of the box. I almost guarantee, regardless of your foot shape, you will fit in these straight out of the box so long as you go true to size. For me, this is one of the most insane feeling boots out of the box because of this material. So I'm going to try to explain auxetic material. Maybe I'll do a little drawing over screen to explain what this is. I had to do basically a little self-taught physics lesson to figure this out. So auxetic material is what they've used on the internal liner. So this white material here, and then of course these little pieces. You can see the stitching, hopefully that stitching pattern, which is really, really beautiful looking. And what auxetic material is it's material that has a negative, it's spelled like poison, but I think it's pronounced Poisson. I'm not sure, but it's a Poisson's ratio. So a negative Poisson's ratio, which is basically when the material is stretched, instead of becoming thinner, it becomes thicker in the perpendicular direction. So some examples of that are polyurethane foam, which which is pretty common, and then also tendons in your body. So that's something that's really interesting. We're starting to see this technology be used in the medical field, in armoring vehicles, actually, for shock resistant. It sort of has to do with shock resistance and being able to have flexibility and strength at the same time. So a super interesting physics application that Under Armour has put into this football boot. If you guys have already seen that 2.0 review, you guys will know that that was also part of that material as well in this upper, a very similar construction. This one obviously being the updated version of that, which is pretty cool. So I know that was a bit of a mouthful. If you don't understand, I totally get it. I understand it conceptually, I just don't know how to communicate it very clearly. So that is what this upper material is made out of, and that's what helps this material really mold around your foot. And the way that that stitching pattern is so, there's all these little pieces are so small that every little nook and cranny around your foot, you're able to slip your foot right in and get a near perfect fit straight out of the box. So that's something that is really, really incredible. You've got some 3D printed little things, these little pieces in green, and then in sort of this darker black, sort of darker black gray, and then that same black color there. So you can see each one of these little pods has that green 3D printed little grip element, I guess you could call it, for additional touch and control. That's sort of what they're advertising this as. It's definitely a lot grippier than the previous generation, which is kind of nice. I imagine that that will give a really nice sensation on feet when you're trying to bend the ball, pass the ball, and just give you a little extra grip across the upper, which is awesome. So you also have a 3D molded heel for that lockdown. I thought the heel area was fine on the last generation. It got a pretty low score, I believe, in the 1 month review, just because it has a pretty determined shape. As you can see, there's absolutely zero flexibility back here, especially here in this hard ridge on the ankle area. So if you're somebody who doesn't fit in this heel area, I imagine even despite the comfort level of this forefoot, you're still gonna struggle with blisters just because of how predetermined the shape is. One of the things that I've started to understand about football boots is that, obviously for a long time I know that the most important thing to do when you're picking your football boots is to pick boots that actually fit your foot first, and then you can figure out what weight and what type of football boot and all that stuff. But the most important thing is to find boots that fit you, because if they don't fit you, even if it's even in just one part of your foot, it can cause the rest of your foot to compensate, or the boot to compensate, so it rubs in certain areas and you get blisters and stuff. And that's one of the things with that I think has started to really affect the way that boot manufacturers have started to create football boots, is that they're starting to go away from these predetermined shaped heels, except for very few models. And the reason for that is because I think a lot of people have, well, everyone has a different shaped foot, but I think a lot of people struggle with these predetermined shaped heel areas, because what happens, and I am definitely one of those people, is I have a very wide toe box and midfoot area, and then my heel is actually the thinnest part of my foot. And so what happens is you get really nice break-in in this upper area in towards the toe area, and then you have a thinner heel that slips around in this predetermined shape. Whereas boots like a GX, boots like the new Tiempo Legend 10 Elite, all have what's the internal heel liner essentially has a cutout material right in the back of this boot right there, and then all it has is these little external heel counters on the lateral and then the medial side. And what that does is it allows you to kind of push this area down, and so there's some flexibility and moldability to, once your ankle is in that boot, it really does mold and wrap around your foot in a way that doesn't allow for very many blisters, which is a huge plus for those of us who have kind of wonky shaped foot, which is awesome. This one, we'll see. Hopefully they've updated the shape. Maybe they've made it a little bit more comfortable, but this sort of material, this woven material on the inside, seems very similar to the previous generation, with these little pads here on the lateral and medial side to kind of lock your Achilles in. But that remains to be said for the on-feet portion, whether this is going to be any update or whether it will cause any slippage in my foot. And so for those of you who want a boot that's going to really lock your heel in, remains to be said. You can skip forward to that portion of the video, but that's kind of the idea behind this heel area. This asymmetrical tongue also has been updated as well. It looks a little bit further over than the 2.0, and then what that's basically trying to do is trying to get a little bit bigger of a striking surface for passing and shooting, which is really, really nice. You've got a nice lightweight sole plate, so that's one of the biggest pieces that I think is different from, obviously they've done minor updates to the upper portion, but this is a completely different sole plate than the 2.0, and thank God, because I did not think that 2.0 sole plate was very good. One of the things that is on that boot, similar to, and I haven't even unboxed the other one. Look at this. We're sitting here with the box. So as I talk, I'm going to unbox the rest of these. Thank you for your patience, guys. We're just doing this on the fly. So I'll get these unboxed really quick. The other pair, which obviously comes with laces, and no string bag, unfortunately, in that as well. So we'll just throw that down. There you go. Okay, perfect. So one of the things that I really didn't like about that 2.0 is the fact that it had a really super hard slant in the sole plate. Asics DS Lite X Fly 5 and potentially, well, the 2.0 and then maybe one or two other boots on the market actually have that. The new Aeropacity insert, or not Aeropacity, excuse me, the sort of that golf ball texturing that replaced the Carbitex insert for the Speed Portal series and now the Crazy Fast series, that sole plate kind of has a bit of a dip, and what I'm really loving here is that this does not look like it's got a little bit of lift in the toe area, but it's not as extreme as it used to be, and that makes me really, really happy. So that's cool. And then one of the other things that they've done is they've made it pretty lightweight, and then they've made little extensions on some of the sides of these conical studs, so it gives a little bit more of the traction of a bladed or mixed stud while also keeping that pivot power from those conical studs, which will be awesome. And we'll test some of that rotational ability as well in the on-feet portion, but it just feels a lot more, that sole plate just feels a lot more substantial, a lot more high quality, and obviously without the chrome of that white colorway with the chrome bottom, these won't hopefully there won't be as much damage to the sole plate after only a month of playing. So this is really promising from the Under Armour brand. This boot looks really promising. Again, we'll see when we get to the on-feet portion of the video, but that is definitely something I'm looking forward to, is kind of feeling the difference between the sole plates, really getting a sense of what this sole plate feels like in its new nature, and then of course what this updated upper feels like, because it does look really fantastic, and I'm excited to get these on feet. One of the other things that this boot is not known for is weight. These weigh in right around the 250 gram mark, which is around 9 ounces, which is actually quite heavy for modern day football boots. That being said, weight really doesn't matter that much at the end of the day. You are gonna feel a difference between having these and say the Crazy Fast Plus on your feet, but at the end of the day, the weight of the boot doesn't mean you should buy those if they don't fit compared to a boot that's heavier that actually does fit, if that makes sense. You want to go fit is king. Fit is over everything else. So when considering a boot like this, and obviously once we get into the on-feet portion, I'll talk a little bit more about how these fit and for certain shapes of feet, but you do want to make sure you go for fit first. So for these, I am really excited. It was sort of hit or miss for me on the 2.0, but these look very promising. Some of the updates they've made, some of the shape changes that they've made, and I'm really excited about this new sole plate, which doesn't look, it's not incredible. It's not going to be anything, I don't think, that's going to blow me out of the water, but it's a massive update over the last one, and I am very excited to test these out. So without further ado, let's hop into the on-feet portion of the video, out on the pitch, and we'll see what the touch is like and how they fit and feel on feet, and especially compared to that previous generation. All right, fam, out here at the pitch with the Under Armour Clone Magnetico 3.0. Very excited to try these on feet. So without further ado, let's just jump into the on feet portion of the video. Very, very nice looking football boots here. I do think they are a little crazy looking, and there's some interesting features that I want to go over once we get these on feet. So let's go straight into it. I'm actually going to fix the screen here just so I can see a little bit better. Beautiful. All right. Perfect. Not wearing any grip socks today, so that is per usual. Well, they're technically Nike grip socks, but there's barely any grip. Here we go. All right. Wow, interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, so there's a super low toe box area where My feet feel a little bit cramped up in the forefoot. There's a little bit of pinching back in the heel, but I think that's just bunch up from the sock. But this auxetic material in the forefoot really does a nice job of wrapping your foot. That being said, you can see it on this one because of how low this toe box area is. It really does feel like your toes have to break in to the front of that football boot, which I don't know if that's a good thing. We'll kind of see how we go as we move into the break-in period of time. But these definitely feel more substantial and a little more well-built than the previous generation, that 2.0. So I'm interested to see how these go over time, but they are pretty comfortable. That upper does wrap your foot really nicely straight out of the box. They do have a decent shape to them as well. It's a little awkward looking for sure, but I think my foot fits in them, other than that little kind of crunchiness that feels like this material is sort of getting a hot spot right on the end of my toe. The rest of the material seems to wrap my foot really, really well. So let's grab this other one on as well, and we'll go from there. All right, here we go. Oop, extra pair of laces in there. You get the green ones. Here we go. So there's that second one. And yeah, very, very similar. Just a little bit of crunching here in the toe area just because of how low profile that toe box is. Like, I would say from here to here in that toe, the first inch from the top of the shoe is more low profile than even a Phantom GX or something like that, or even the new Tiempo that's got a really low toe box. These happen to have a super, super low toe box. So that's something that if you are somebody with higher volume toes or larger toes, I guess, you might want to look at a different pair of football boots just because of how low these are. But there you go, straight out of the box. This is what they look like. They do feel pretty nice. I am getting a little bit of pressure points right on the heel area right here. That's something that I was sort of talking about in the unboxing portion that I felt a little worried about, especially with how rigid these are, and it does seem to give me a little bit of a hot spot on the back of my heel, which is not great. One thing that I am very excited about though is what they've done with the sole plate. So the sole plate it feels much more neutral, much better on feet. It's not as grossly, like there's no heat toe lift like that. You really can kind of push your foot into the ground as much as possible, and there seems to be enough pivot power on AG pitches as well. I'm sure on FG these would be just fine. Little bit of bowing here on the outside of the material. That is because this whole thing is synthetic. Obviously outside of this sort of faux leather with the really big padding and the auxetic material here in the forefoot, this is very, very rigid. There's really no adjustability to this area here in the heel, but that is just something you have to deal with these football boots because they are built around that forefoot area and that material, that kind of fake leather with the grip on it. So there you go, there's a full look at the boots themselves. I do think they're better than the previous generation, the 2.0. They fit a little bit more snug, a little bit nicer out of the box. They're not as feeble in the upper, it feels like. One of the things that I didn't really like that much about the first generation, or the second generation, I guess, the 2.0, is that after a while, lateral stability kind of went away. There wasn't really any structure to the upper. These feel a little bit more structured. They feel a little bit more tangible and a little bit more substantial when you have them on feet. And so I do think they are going to be a much more viable option for players looking for something really unique, or for players looking for the same boots as Trent Alexander-Arnold, who wears these. Touch on the ball is pretty similar, I would say, to the second generation. It is a little more on the padded side, I would say. You can't really feel those 3D printed or 3D little molded grip elements on the front while juggling the ball. My guess is that as you start to manipulate and dribble the ball, you'll be able to feel them a little bit more as time goes on and you get more of a feel. But because of how the auxetic material on the inside of this fake leather actually feels and how padded it is, you don't get a very one-to-one sensation on the ball. So these are boots that are going to be much more on the padded side. If that's what you're into, these might be a good option for you. As I'm wearing them in, the heel that little pinching on the back of the heel, kind of on like almost directly on the back of the heel for me, is still there. That's a little unfortunate. So I am hoping that as the break-in period of time goes away, it'll definitely be a little bit better, I hope. But for the most part, these boots fit really, really nicely in the forefoot area. It does mold very well to the shape of your foot. As I said, I'm getting pressure points here on the toe and pressure points here on the heel. That's kind of where I'm feeling the most discomfort. The rest of the boot, though, this material seems to really do a nice job of getting that custom fit straight out of the box, which I think was sort of their goal with this football boot, which is really nice. Obviously, it's very, very soft, and it's a nice material to have on your feet. There's really no hot spots, especially here in areas where I usually have the most issues in football boots, right on the outside. But that remains to be said. If you have a different shaped foot, I might not recommend these boots for you, especially if you're looking for a thinner football boot. These are not those. These are going to be much more suited to players who want a little bit more of a padded sensation and want a little bit more of a plush, sort of foam paddy type football boot. As far as comparison to other things on the market, there's really not much else that feels like this. That's the only thing of doing something like the auxetic material that's really, really unique. There's not a lot of things on the market that are going to compete with this. That being said, that might be a good thing. One of the things that I'm also noticing is the difference in shape in the two football boots. The right boot has much more of like a square look to it, whereas there's a much more like streamlined sensation to, you can see there and you can see there. You see how the toe on the right foot here, so this one is a little more square on the toe. I don't know what that's about. Maybe that's just like a general shape thing. Maybe they think it's some sort of research-based point, so they made the shoes different looks, but I would guess that that's a manufacturing defect, and that's something that I don't think is a good thing when you're mass producing football boots. So hopefully Under Armour fixes that. But overall, I think this is a decent package from Under Armour. It's again, decent is the key word there. It's not amazing, it's not great, but it's also not absolute shambles. It's not something like that I think people should completely look away from, but I would say that there are better, from a fake leather and like a padded fake leather sensation, you can get much better options on the market. So that's kind of it for this review. I'm gonna test these. I'm gonna see if that heel issue goes away. Hopefully, cross my fingers, don't get too many blisters. But I think from a sizing perspective and a fit perspective, they are, for the most part, gonna be pretty good. I can deal with a little bit of pain in my Achilles or in my heel and my toe, and that's no worries as I start to break them in. But overall, again, decent package. If you're looking for something a little more padded that has a unique fit straight out of the box that's not like most other things on the market, I would definitely consider these. Otherwise, I would move towards something more like a Tiempo Legend 10 in that sort of fake leather, synthetic leather category that's a little bit more thin, a little bit more well-built in my opinion, and feels really nice as well. So as always, be awesome, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.